Alright, I wanted to record this quick video here because a lot of people have problems dealing with the BarB AI when they start in Beyond All Reason, and it is more difficult than certain other AIs in RTS games, but with a bit of practice and a bit of skill, you should be able to handle it no problems, and it's a good benchmark for when you're really able to start an online play. I think most skilled online players should be able to deal with BarB AI without any real difficulties. So the first thing to consider when playing against anyone, including the AI, is your starting point. It doesn't matter as much on a map like this with a relatively even distribution of mech spots, but on other maps where there'll be clusters, you want to generally go for an early dense spot and look to your first or second points of expansion. So start with the most dense things where you don't have to move your commander too much, and then look for where the next two most logical dense spots of metal are. Again, on other maps, you can have some different values at your max points. All of the ones on this map, I think, are 2.3 metal. You can see I've chosen here to start with on this map because I can access both of these max points without moving the commander. Build the two energy generators there. Wind on this map is very poor, so it's not even a consideration. And then immediately go into a factory. And I can do all of this without moving at all, so I don't waste any time, and also by building in a relatively compact shape. It is easily defendable from the BarB AI. You can see over here he's building more or less the same strategy and things as me. He's a bit slower than me, probably because he walked. And you'll see I've already started on my bot lab before he's done anything over his way. Now, in case you didn't know, you can queue up your units before the bot lab is finished, so I suggest you always do that. You don't have to use these units specifically. I'm being very greedy here. I'm going to get out a constructor as fast as possible, and I'm going to spit out 3 of the ticks here. Now, in this case, they're just going to be for defense. I'm actually playing what I would consider relatively conservatively, but just so you know, a completely valid and possibly even more preferable tactic to take when playing this AI is attack early and harass with these ticks. The BarB AI is very good at finding holes in your defense. It is not so good at defending its own area. So if you can spit out a couple of ticks, and if you've got the control, send those guys out as early as possible. Just use them to harass, slow down his commander's expansion, take out a few mexes if you can, and that will significantly hinder its ability to expand early. One of its weaknesses, in my opinion. So when you are playing against the BarB AI, what you generally want to do, or a relatively surefire way of defeating it, is to make sure that all of your early expansion points are defended. It's going to send these units out to probe you, and if it meets sufficient resistance, it's going to turn away. See here what we've got. I've built up my base. I've got lots of power, well, a bit of power. I'm already building 2 defensive turrets here. I've got some scouts and some pawns who are ready to meet this little happy chappy when he arrives at about the 2 to 2.5 minute mark. Before that point, nothing really, unless you're doing an absolute scout rush, can actually reach your base. So you've got about, on a map this size, 2 minutes or so before you're even going to have contact at your base with the energy, which means you can set up a couple of pawns, a couple of these ticks, or whatever unit it is if you're playing Cortex, in order to defend your base. And the first units that are going to arrive are going to be scouts or grunts or pawns. They're not, or ticks, whatever they are. They're not going to be anything particularly substantial. So having a handful of those for yourself and 1 or 2 of these laser turrets is going to successfully defend your base, assuming that you've built relatively compactly and that you're relatively agile with how you can respond. Again, I'm being a little bit lazy here. I haven't built a radar or anything yet, so if you go onto my view, I'm still a little bit clueless about what's going on in the game in general. But note that every time I go out with an expansion, I have an escort of my constructor with sufficient units to stave off these early little grunt attacks. And because it's the BarB AI, once you've chosen these sort of dense points to expand to as your first point of expansion, plop down a defensive turret. It'll keep it somewhat safe. He'll probe it with a couple of things, but once you've got these things up, that's a little bit annoying. Once you've got the defenses up, I'm not going to say he won't come back, but it won't come back or effectively come back until he's massed a few units to try to take on your defense there. Alright, so we see here I've moved my commander out to this central 3-mech spot. See, the BarB AI is actually retreating with his commander after he's come out. That is highly inefficient on its behalf. You generally want to avoid walking out and back, doubling back with your commander. It's a very big waste of time. He's not doing anything while he's moving like that. While he retreats, I am going to cap all 3 of these mechs points, and you'll soon see that I have overtaken him in terms of both resource income and energy income. Of course, I don't know this for sure, but look, I've got relatively... Oh, let's try and see if I can go back to me. I have relative confidence that the BarB AI is not going to be a serious challenge. Now, note here, I've got 3 or so fronts on which to battle this guy at the moment. Top front, where he can sneak through up there, this gap between these 2 craters here, and this sort of front down here, which is being covered by my commander, a little scout, and this thing. But even if he gets some units through here, I don't really care, because I've got a factory, a couple of constructors down here, and I'm just generating one of these guys up now, one of the turrets. So even if he sneaks someone in through here, I've got a couple of pawns and a factory which can build defenses before he gets there. I'm not really concerned. Note, I've got my radar up now in the central thing, which actually provides a pretty good view of the battlefield. He's being very mean and taking out my tick. That tick never hurt anybody. He just wanted to be loved. See, I'm still ahead on metal and energy income. He is expanding, yeah, it's comparable speed, but he's not really putting any more pressure on me than I am on him. See, I've got a couple of grunts up the top there and in the middle here. I've got my commander down here who I think is going to go down and cap that and put a defensive turret and just generally try and cover this whole southern wing. Again, not really concerned. I've got a few backups here, getting a bit lazy. I'm generating a lot of metal, but not overflowing yet. I probably will start to overflow soon. I'm not the most disciplined in this game because I'm not particularly concerned. I've started putting some resource expenditure into advanced solars, pushing the boundaries on whether I'm going to energy stall or not. But everything's going pretty well, and you can see already here, again, mass energy way ahead of where the BarB AI is. Just having a little bit of light skirmishing. I saw these guys in my territory, just for the record. I do not care, because I know that I have basic turrets, with the exception of this thing here, basically guarding all of the possible weak points around my things. So with BarB AI, again, place some defensive turrets around all of your primary expansions and your mech expansions. Once you get good enough, you've got the excess resources to not have to worry about those sorts of micro efficiencies that you're going to have to worry about if you're playing the top players online. You can easily afford to put down a basic defense around every single expanse. And if you've got 3 or 4 mix points in one area, you can even pop down 1 or 2. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's all easily within margin of error for defeating that AI. Okay, we can see up the top here, I've expanded and put down, I'm putting down 2 little turrets basically to cut off this entire mode of access here. No one's going to be sneaking in through there, which means, again, we've got just this little middle ground here that I have to worry about, and this front here. But note that this front is very dense with defensive structures now, and some units. I'm not really concerned about things sneaking through here. And again, I've got units that can be built at that back end if anything comes through. If I wanted, I could be a lot more aggressive here and push out, but honestly, so far I'm just not bothering harassing BarB AI. I could, and arguably it would be better if I did. I would certainly win faster, but I'm really taking this easy. I just want to show the general idea. You want to block off access to your resources up the back, defend all of your weak points, look to expand, always send with an escort in every single direction. When you're trying to expand your construction bots out with BarB AI, and have a nice mass of units. And remember to build units. Beginners often think that they can win just by building up their base. There is no need. First of all, you're not going to win if you try to play defensively that often. It is possible to win, it's not easy playing defensively. But what you really want to do is gain map control. And you do that by sending out units. Okay, we're about 9 minutes in. Note, just again, to compare to beginners, I have not built any energy converters. I do not need to. I've got lots of uncapped mexes. It is much more efficient for me to expand to these things. Yes, I am potentially being contested. Up the top here, yes, I see some things here on the radar. But not a concern. I should still be trying to push and capture territory at this stage. Now, I built this vehicle factory, first of all, because I know I've got a lot of pawns. It's not uncommon for Cortex to pump out a riot tank or two, if that is the case. And if they're going to pump out a riot tank, I'm going to pump out these stouts to try to counter any movements you have there. I pumped out this artillery just for laughs, really. It puts a little bit of pressure on whatever it is that's in there. He can't really come in and challenge me. I've got too many defenses here. So I'm just going to start putting pressure on this area over here, I believe. Again, this guy's running around, but honestly, who cares? Because he's not going to hurt anything. He can't get past the defenses that I have, and I'm just sort of leapfrogging defensive turrets. So see that guy's building another defensive turret here. He's still well within the attack range of these defensive turrets. So as this guy comes in, he might, that guy, he'll get a pop off, but he's not going to do too much damage. And once he leaves, I'm just going to build it again. Alright, we had a little skirmish over here, I think. Not really that concerned. I've got another front with a wall of defensive turrets. Now I'm freed up to start moving these guys around. Start pushing him back. Start probing his defenses. Ha! You don't like that, BarB AI. You like to probe other people. You don't like being probed. Anyway. Now, I'm just going to pause the game here, because if I recall correctly, what I did here, I've got a big defensive turret here, big defensive line here, big defensive line here, lots of units. I am not concerned that much about being attacked, because if they fall on these things, they're probably going to get shredded. So that leaves me, these guys here, free to start probing into the attack base. These guys here, free to start probing in here. And I've got a couple of options. One of the options, which I don't think I took, was to send these guys up along here, send these guys up along here, and sandwich these guys, get lots of flanking bonus, and absolutely annihilate this forward base here. However, I'm so boringly confident that I think I've got enough units to overrun whatever this is here, so what I'm actually going to do is probably send these guys in to wipe out these guys, and send these guys in along here and probably push in here. And I'm probably going to do it simultaneously so that he can't choose to take on one at a time, and my hope is that in doing so I basically wipe out that entire resource and territory thing for BarB AI. And that will be one hell of a good victory if we can pull it off. Let's see what happens. And here we go. Easy peasy. Alright, so that little skirmish, I don't know how to put this, but from a more skilled player's point of view, this game should basically be over at this point. Although I don't know it at this time, I've hit him a big resource damage issue by taking out those little defenses there. He doesn't have too many units. I mean, maybe he's got some hidden that I can't see, or some such, but I've still got most of my units from that skirmish. I lost a couple of pawns up here, but I've also taken out his metal extractors. And now I'm going to push forward here, because I know that he's got not very much down here. Take out another metal extractor. Oh, look, I've seen 2 construction bots. Let's go and teach those guys not to run forward of their main army too much. It's a very naughty thing to do. And just for the record, I saw at this point that he was down here, and that amount of forces is almost certainly enough with proper management to take out a commander. No problems. I didn't do that purely because I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what was going on in this game and just basically whittle him down until there's nothing much left. In short, you don't have to be afraid of the BarB AI. Once you're skilled enough, he's not going to come back. You can just keep pushing him down, doing logical things, figuring out where people are, destroying his expansion points, and slowly crushing him into a cube. Now, note that my force completely died there. I mean, we did take out his radar as well. But as I said, at this point, I am so reasonably, rationally or irrationally confident that I'm not really concerned. He's got a little fighting force here, but I already have almost 2,300 metal worth of stouts and things defending my medium points, some defensive things, and my commander as well. On his front, he only has 1,204 metal of whatever it is he's bringing forward. Of course, I don't know that at the time, but I'm reasonably confident. There's not a lot here. Yes, there is a radar shadow here, so there's a few things more, but I'm not really concerned. With that attack there, which is slowly rebuilding up there, I know he's basically crippled. And with the benefit of hindsight, we can see here 59 metal per second for myself, 900 energy compared to his, goes up or down, he's obviously reclaiming something, roughly 30 metal, 700 energy. Again, not concerned at this point. In fact, I'm so not concerned that at this point I've said, well, I control most of this map, he's already been wiped out up there, I'm just going to transition into T2 economy, start bringing out a few things. Yeah, in fact, I think I've already got my T2 constructor out, replace some of these guys with some T2 metal extractors, just cementing the victory. Now these guys are starting to go down here. If you see what I saw at the time, again, I've got some Fidos or Hounds or whatever they're called up here defending the front. This guy's going down here. He's just going to keep whittling away. Bit of a waste of metal there. Those guys are just going to run in, whittle him down even more, kill a few things. We see he's got a fair number of units, but again, I don't care because I have this T1 factory here, T2 factory here now supplying me hounds. He can run and charge me all he wants. All he's going to do is feed me metal, which is sort of what I'm doing here, but I'm having a bit more success. That is to say, I'm feeding him metal. I could play a lot more optimally if this was particularly challenging. Oh, look at that. We discover he's trying to transition to T2 now. Unfortunately for him, I've destroyed that. Now, this is interesting here. I push up in the base, and he's got a fair amount of units coming back this way. I wonder whether BarB AI is smart enough to try to do a sort of a base swap or some sort of desperation maneuver. He moves his guys forward and, like, okay, I'm attacking his base. Does he decide that he's desperate enough to need to attack my base at the same time? Maybe. Those many thugs would probably be enough to overrun that line of defenses. Bit of slow and take some damage. Then they would hit this line of defenses or that line of defenses. Plus, I have all of these guys here ready to take advantage, so I'm not really concerned. As we zoom in here and we see, you know, general skirmishing. Again, I'm not really under any threat. These guys move forward. we discover ourselves another factory there, which we take out again. Poor BarB AI keeps losing factories, not very good for his metal expenditure. Go back in and re-destroy that outpost again. And we had a little skirmish up here. I expand out, and at this stage I'm telling this guy to expand and pick up some mexes. If I was playing properly, I'd tell this guy to stock up and start converting some of those things to T2, but as I said, it's basically over at this point. I'm driving in now with my little guys. There he goes, retreating to his base. Not that it's going to do you much good, Mr. AI. We turn in. Ooh, nice and loud. And honestly, by the time the Fidos or Hounds or whatever they're called come in, they're going to lodge a few things and this is going to be game over. Boom. Okay, so that's it. That's my thoughts and commentary on that particular match. Just a quick little look at the graphs. You can see that I basically stay ahead, where I here, on the metal used, ahead of him the entire match. I stay ahead on energy, stay ahead on metal produced, energy produced. Do I have metal? Oh no, he accesses more metal, which does happen a fair bit with BarB AI sometimes. I've accessed some more energy, but just on the statistics thing, the energy I have produced, minus my energy accessed, is far in excess of what he would have produced anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I've had more units active on the field the entire time, and I've dealt more damage. Have I received more damage? No, I've received about the same amount, but it doesn't matter because my expansion and area control was so much better that I just had more economy. I could pump out things, and as long as I sort of be anal about covering my bases, everything's safe. He falls, as should largely be predicted. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching.